This is a special report of the OhioRAAM Show.
Well, this is a special report of the OhioRAAM Show, and we're going to do something a little different with this report and in the weeks to come because we have our good friend here, Dr. Lam Do in San Diego, California. How are you this evening, Lam?
I am well, Lee. The weather here is beautiful, and I am well.
Well, the reason we have you on is you're going to make a return bicycle tour of Vietnam, your homeland, your native land, I should say, accurately. And I thought it would be well to get acquainted with your story of coming here. I've often wondered about that. We're going to have a chance to talk about it. So let's start out with you were born in Vietnam when and leading up to the time of the evacuation.
I was born in Da Nang, Da Nang, as American would say, in 1966. In Da Nang, I lived there for about 6 years, and I don't remember going to school. I remember just goofing around. When we moved to Saigon, now Ho Chi Minh City, then I remember going to school.
This is quite a fascinating story. We're not going to be able to get into all of it, but I would direct you to the show notes you'll find right below the video here, the link to his story, and you can go there and read more about it. But it's quite a story. Now, you left there when you were, what, 9, I believe?
Yes, my parents are both from northern Vietnam, and my father, when my grandfather died, and he died young, about 43, with cholera, my father joined the French army voluntarily to help support his family. And my mom is also from the north. She's from Hải, which is near Haiphong. For those of you old enough, Haiphong took a lot of bombing during the war.
Those are names that some of us will remember well.
Yes, and so my parents were married, and then when the French left in 1954, the country was divided, and my dad had to leave because he was in the French army, and my mom, because she's Catholic, she had to go south, or else they probably would have been killed in the north. So they migrated south.
Okay.
And I was born in Da Nang, which is the central part of the country.
It's amazing how many people who were not born when all this happened. Some of us remember it quite well. For us Americans, we saw the scene of the helicopter on the roof evacuating people. And you left just before that happened, didn't you?
Yeah, so we live in Da Nang. I was born in Da Nang, lived there for about 6 years. And those of you may remember the Tet Offensive in 68.
Yes.
So I was 2 years old living in Da Nang when that happened. And so as the war got closer, we moved to Saigon. And I lived in Saigon from 72 to 75. And we left Saigon April 29th, 1975, which is one day before the country fell. And the photo of the helicopter picking up people on the roof, that was during that time.
Yes.
And we got out in the nick of time, just one day before the tank rolled into to Saigon, one day before.
And you were 9 years old.
Yes.
At that time, so you have pretty good memories of all that, don't you?
I remember lots of chaos. We were one of my uncle was supposed to pick us up in one of those helicopters, but he couldn't land. So we went to Plan B, which was to go down to the harbor and got on a commercial vessel that my other uncle captained, and we left on his commercial vessel. It was sad because you know the sun was setting. All these relatives and people I don't know. Everyone is looking back at the shoreline. The sun is setting. You have helicopter flying above, and everyone is crying. Everybody knew they were leaving their homeland, leaving everything behind to go out to the sea. We don't know where we were going. So it was a very sad moment, even for me at 9 years old. So we're all on this boat. We're going out toward international water, and we hit a storm, and I got seasick for the first time. That was not pleasant. Again, from the boat, you had to get onto a barge full of refugees. Because the American ship won't pick up the refugee from their own boat at that time because, they're afraid you're going to blow your ship up or whatever. So we got onto a barge, one of those that transport coal down the Mississippi. It was one of those barges, and it's full of people. And we were on there for 3 days and 3 nights. My family with the rest of the refugees. And then the American ship came by and picked up women and children first. And so my father and eldest brother had to stay back. And of course, once we got onto the American ship, we haven't had food for 3 days. So, rice porridge, whatever they gave us was really good. And they took us to Subic Bay, Philippines. Yeah, we waited in Subic Bay, and our father and brother finally show up, and then they flew us from Subic Bay, Philippines, which is a Navy base, over to Guam Island, and there they housed the refugees at it's called Fort Asan, ASAN, and the refugee were housed there. We stay in tents, in army tents, and I just remember it was very dusty. I think it was on an airfield, but I could be wrong. But every day I had conjunctivitis, so I couldn't open my eyes in the morning because get stuck closed from all the goo. And so when I wake up, I had to struggle and get my eyes open first, and then you go line up for breakfast, and powder eggs and corned beef hash out of the can, and whatever they gave us, we ate. And I'm 9 years old, and I'm just thankful that I'm with my family and I'm alive, and I goof around, and then at night there's outdoor movies, and it's usually World War II theme, Patton tanks, and we didn't understand what they were saying, but we know about the good guys and bad guys, and that was the evening entertainment, and we do it again the next day. I think we were on Guam for several months. I recall 3. And Guam, you there's beach, so I got to run around on the beach and goof around.
Kids will find a way, won't they? No matter what.
We're kids, and so I remember those wood rack, the wood pylon that's at the bottom of transport thing. We take the wood pylon, and we would try to go out on the out on the ocean. I guess
raft.
It's kind of like a raft. Yeah, and I think one of my sister stepped on a sea urchin. And her foot almost fell off. I think I remember that. And my younger brother developed chicken pox while we were there.
Now, was chicken pox a disease that was the Vietnamese are familiar with?
Yeah, yes. he developed chicken pox, and so then they had to quarantine my whole family, right? Because you don't want chicken pox spreading to the rest of the refugees.
Yeah.
So they move us to a different part into like little condos. So that was nice for a short period. So then from Guam, we were flown via Anchorage to Fort Chaffee, Fort Smith, Arkansas. So in Fort Smith, Arkansas, there's Fort Chaffee, an army fort where they house many of the refugees. And I still have a picture of us standing in front of the army barrack, all 9 of us, 7 kids and our parents. So that was Fort Chaffee, Fort Smith, Arkansas. And there you are awaiting sponsorship out of the refugee camps. You needed to, I believe it was Catholic Charities that helped my family find a sponsor out of the camp. So, and life there is pretty simple. Again, you wake up, you go line up for breakfast. Then you may line up to get free clothing. You try to learn some English. The men will play volleyball in between the barrack. I remember them playing volleyball, and then bedtime, and then the things start again the next day.
Now, let me ask: what was your family fluent in French?
No, my father spoke some French because he was in the French army, but he wasn't in the French army for many years. And so my dad, but no, we all spoke Vietnamese.
And you were just kind of trying to learn English, right?
Very limited schooling in the refugee camps, right? Yeah. Essentially, I didn't learn much at all in terms of English in the camp.
From Fort Smith, you went to where?
So from Fort Chaffee, Fort Smith, Arkansas, we were sponsored by a church, First Calvary Baptist Church of Wilmington, North Carolina. Okay. So we went from Fort Smith to the East Coast, Wilmington, North Carolina. And the church who sponsored our family helped us get established in America.
And what about work? When did that come into the picture?
So when we moved to Wilmington, they helped my father find employment. They retrained him in making ventilation ducts. And so he learned how to cut metal and make ventilation ducts. I started 3rd grade at Forest Hill Elementary School. I still remember that. My eldest sister was college age, so she started college at East Carolina University. And then the other sibling, we were all in either high school to elementary school. And I had to learn English quickly because at my elementary school there was only 2 Asian kids, and the other kid was Chinese, and I couldn't talk to him. So I within 6 months I learned English because I had to. There was no other choice. We left North Carolina and moved back to Fort Smith because the economy was not doing well at that time. So my dad basically didn't have a job anymore. So we found employment back in Fort Smith at, I believe, is a Purdue chicken processing factory.
Okay.
we found job at processing chicken, making chicken nuggets, that type of stuff. So my father, my brother, my sister, they found employment, and I started 6th grade, junior high, at Kimmons Junior High in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Well, somehow or the other, you wound up in Oklahoma.
So that was next. That's the next big town over. So from Fort Smith, we then relocated to Oklahoma City. That's where my sister married a man from Oklahoma City. And then my father got a job with Coca-Cola bottling company in Oklahoma City. So then we packed up from Fort Smith to Oklahoma City, and that's where I started high school. So I went to high school in Oklahoma City, and then I went down to Norman, Oklahoma at the University of Oklahoma.
When did you come up with the idea of being a doctor, a physician?
Well, in junior high, I wanted to become an architect because I like drafting and drawing and turning my pencil. But somewhere there, my mom said, you should be a doctor when you grow up. And I'm like, what, Mom, I want to be an architect, But she introduced that idea to me early on. And by the time I was in high school, I knew I wanted to go into medicine. I left Norman, Oklahoma for the Bronx.
That was quite a cultural shock in itself, wasn't it?
It was. My first trip to New York City was my interview. And my second trip was whatever I could carry. I landed in LaGuardia Airport and moved to the Bronx. And that's where I started medical school in 1988. 88 to 92 was medical school in the Bronx. And since it is 2022, I just came back from my 30 years reunion.
And you cycled there, didn't you? From what, Niagara Falls?
Yeah, we flew to we flew to Buffalo, and I rode to Niagara Falls first. Then we rode along the Erie Canal all the way to Battery Park at the tip of Manhattan, so I could attend my 30-year reunion in the Bronx.
Okay, and so somehow or the other you wind up in San Diego, the other side of the country.
Right. So in the Bronx, I met my future wife, and she's from Northern California. So instead of going to Dallas, Texas, and doing my residency and becoming a Texan, I found my way to San Jose and did residency, and came to California in 1992. And that's been 30 years. I've never left California, just Northern California for 22 years and Southern California for about 10 now.
Well, this is all leading up to, you've been in the Race Across America, and you've been on the show a couple of different times. And we found out that you are now going back to Vietnam with your bicycle, correct?
Correct. In about 3 weeks, I am making my first trip back to Vietnam after 47 years since I left at 9. This is my first trip back, and we are going, my friend and I, we are going to land in Hanoi, and we are going to cycle all of northern Vietnam, because this is where my parents are from, my roots. And I want to see where my parents are from and where I'm from. But I'm from further south, but this is where my roots are from. And I feel a need to go to see, because it's, I've grew up in America. I was 9, and now I'm 56. It's time to go.
We just had Valerio Zamboni on the show, he was in Vietnam at the time. He said that he was very welcome there. He had a very good experience, and he found the people very, very friendly. I'm sure you will as well. And we're very happy to say that you have agreed to send us special reports while you're there. You said 3 weeks. We want to say this is being recorded, and it's be more like a week. It'll be what you leave. Your tour starts like on the 12th or 13th or something like that of October.
Yeah, I am flying out of San Diego October 14th.
Okay.
I will try to send as many videos and little clips for you, and hopefully show you some of the sites that I'm interested to see.
Well, we're looking forward to that, and this is going to be a little different thing for the OhioRAAM Show, but we like to try different things, and you've been such a good friend. It is a wonderful story, Lam. We are so honored to have you with us. We are so honored that you're willing to do this with us. We're quite excited about it. We wish you well. We wish you safe travels. We hope that you make some amazing discoveries.
I'm hopeful that this won't be the only trip. I would like to go and see my birthplace in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, where I lived for a few years. So the southern part of the central and southern part of the country probably will be a future visit as well.
Future visit. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate this opportunity to share this great adventure with all of our friends here on the OhioRAAM Show. Thank you, Lam.
Thank you, Lee. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
This is Gregory Zuber, thanking you for watching and sharing.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.